Thank you, Con Cora. Minister, much of the fanfare surrounding the publication of Project Ireland 2040 has fallen flat. That's because it is an insincere attempt by this government to promote itself and has become in effect an extremely expensive publicity stunt. There has been a lot of commentary about moving away from local politics and the drafting of the national policy. However, I have no shame in stating the case for Donegal, how I believe that more should have been offered in the drafting of the National Development Plan. Donegal has persistently been sidelined in national policy and as a result suffers from chronic underinvestment and imbalanced regional growth. Project Ireland 2040 calls itself futuristic as it sets out development in Ireland for the next generation. But really the contents of Project 2040 are projects which should have been carried out 10 years ago, not in 10 years' time. And we should be seeing this money within the next few years because we are so behind infrastructurally and, and economically in this country thanks to the austerity policies pushed through by Fine Gael and Labour. It's also an intensely commercially led, high-tech plan leaving little room for rural development or projects which have a social value and an element to them. What is evident in Project Ireland 2040 is that Donegal can expect to be forgotten for about another generation thanks to the National Development Plan continuing the trend of excluding the needs of Donegal and rural Ireland from national policy once again. Firstly, the government has been keeping its cards close to its chest in terms of specific county-by-county projects. But from what I do see for County Donegal is really quite comical, particularly the commenting around the announcement of some projects in Donegal, namely that Project Ireland 2040 will be a game changer. And at least Donegal is different than Dublin and the railway and Galway and the railway that we have seen, because this actually announced projects that have already started and are almost finished. So that's at least we're getting these projects because they're nearly complete anyway. This plan is anything but a game changer for Donegal. Most of the projects have already been announced, and in some cases projects have been announced which are very near completion. I've heard the figure and read the figure of 179 projects banded about in the plan which have previously been announced before. And it's baffling to think that the government thought it could get away with promising future projects which are already near completion. For example, the Donegal Bay sewage scheme servicing Bundoran and Killybegs and Glencomkill is almost complete. It's about 90% complete, but yet it's going to be rolled out in this plan. The N56 from Glenties to Leitchmark Ward is almost half complete, but it's going to be rolled out in this plan as well. The Ballybofey bypass, which has been on the cards for years and years, and the announcement today does nothing to make it become a reality either. Radiology services for Letterkenny General University Hospital is actually refurbishing money going back to 2011 where the flooding took place. And the state-owned harbour in my own town of Killybegs has already been announced, and 5 million out of the nearly 8 million announced was for previous projects. So I already have a question with the Minister in relation to this, because it was announced recently in my constituency that Killybegs Harbour has received nearly €8 million, when it appears that only €3 million is actually new money and the rest is tied up in contractual commitments going back a number of years. I also have to laugh at the statement on broadband and claims that the rollout will be expedited. I have to ask, was this included in the draft plan prior to the scandal surrounding AIR pulling out of the tendering process? Because if the government has a lot of playing catch-up and is nowhere near the capacity and able to develop this process given the specific delays of the plan's experience. So if the government departments aren't even talking to each other, and this plan was only published on Friday, but yet it doesn't include any of that in it. So it's a contradictory message the government is sending out here, with large sums of money allocated to road upgrades, yet local authorities have been rejecting applications for local improvement scheme payments across Donegal. I've been holding a number of emergency clinics to help people set up their appeals, and I think it would have been wise for the government to provide sufficient funding for ongoing needs of road users on a local level, as well as announcing grand projects. But why am I talking about roads when everybody else in the country is talking about railways? Because we don't have any railways, we never have railways, we don't have roads, and we probably won't have roads either in the future. I mean, I drive out on a motorway here for 20 miles on a 160-mile journey home. So we won't have railway. We'd love to have railway. Indeed, in my own town in Killybegs, there was a railway station which closed in 1963. And railway was abolished, and the whole county of Donegal was well served by railway and was taken out by previous governments, so we can't expect to have any railway in the future. So this brings me to another problematic aspect of Project Ireland and the plan that is very top-heavy, primarily focusing on developing Letterkenny, while the west and south-west of the county remain largely absent. Not only will this kind of development place a lot of emphasis on one urban centre, it will ensure increasing population growth to Letterkenny will continue to migrate from rural villages, encouraging depopulation even more. I spoke on the issue of depopulation already today with Minister Ring, who seemed to think everything was fine and rosy in rural Ireland. I highlighted the plague of depopulation in Donegal, and Donegal experiencing the highest rate of depopulation in the country. In fact, only 2 other counties have experienced higher depopulation, or experienced depopulation, while the rest of the country saw an increase in their population. And that's because everybody's moving from Donegal to Dublin to work here. The live register in the Minister Ring made much of the fact that the live register had declined by over 9,000 in the last couple of years. But he forgot to mention that in Donegal only 2,000 jobs have been created, but yet the live register has decreased by 9,000. That's because people are living in Australia and England and America and places like that, and Dublin as well. It's also a myth that much more development can be carried out in Letterkenny, because Letterkenny is an absolute disaster in terms of planning and everything else, and it won't be able to take the population that will be there unless it is dealt with straight away. And the trend for the North West is heading in opposite directions to the rest of the country, and Project Ireland will only entrench us further. Project Ireland does contain a new rural regeneration fund of €1 billion to support rural renewal and reduce population decline, but it's also very scant on detail, which remains to be seen how much of this will be targeted by a county level. And this will probably be the item that will be announced in the next plan 20 years from now that will be spent then. And what I think we should be seeing is equal consideration for the development of urban centres as well as rural villages. We need to provide funding and support for rural villages to develop their own local economies, to bring in local employment and develop sustainable, vibrant places to live as well. Much of job creation will depend on broadband rollout, of course, but in the meantime it's about access to proper supports and structures that can reverse the population trend. Ultimately, we need to see a reversal of the damaging Fine Gael policies and the legacy left behind by Labour, which will have encouraged the retreat of rural services. The retreat of rural services is a blight on rural Ireland and has developed into the private sector too, as small towns like Ardra are now left with no banking facilities at all. I've also been carrying out a business survey across Donegal and talking to business because they seem to be the only people that you actually listen to. And the response has been very good so far, but what is alarming from them is the level of anxiety from business regarding the continued trend of depopulation and retreat of rural services.